Hello and welcome. This is FIDE Master and FIDE Trainer Vedant Goswami. Today, we are going to see another beautiful positional lesson, if I can say, by Magnus Carlsen. The game was played yesterday in the European Team Championship in the matchup between Norway and Israel. And Magnus is playing white against Gretarsson. So let us start with the game. Lot of very instructive instances in the game. And it is amazing how Magnus can create this work of art, of beauty with every game he plays. It is really amazing. So E4, E5 is one of the greatest experts in this Ruy Lopez or Gyuko piano type of systems. Nf3 Nc6, bishop b5 a6, the main line Ruy Lopez, bishop a4 Nf6 and d3, a move which is quite popular nowadays, kind of avoids main line theory and keeps some juice in the game. Multiple setups from both white and black are possible. Bishop c5 and c3, a very typical move, taking control of the d4 square and also planning to push the b pawn at some point, gaining space in the queen side and also possibly in the center. b5 and bishop b3 and d6. Very typical setup from both white and black. Carlsen continues with bishop g5, h6, bishop h4, bishop a7. So it's kind of prophylactic move, keeping the bishop away from the advance d4 as and when it comes, and usually gives some additional defensive opportunities to black. Also, it gives time for black to see what setup is white going to take, and some information in how to react accordingly. So knight b2 was played, typical Spanish maneuver. Knight goes to f1 and then comes out of either e3 or g3. In this case, mostly e3, because knight g3 would kind of trap the bishop, with g5 being possible from black. So g5 here was played, bishop g3 and queen e7. Now this position is not so easy for black to play because he has moved pawns from both sides, both in the queen side and the king side. So it is not so sure where should the black king go. And wherever it does decide to go, it will always be in some risk because the movement of the pawns in front of the king. Carlsen continues with the maneuver in f1, bishop e6 and knight e3. A very typical maneuver, improving the position of the knight. From here, it exerts control on the critical squares. d5 and f5, rook b8 was played, and now castles with Carlsen. Now, it is interesting how to continue the game as black, because again, now since black has lost his right to castle queen side, the only way to go is the king side, and that side is also a little bit compromised. So black takes bishop e3. It is kind of a thing which you don't want to do, but you have to do because knight was a very powerful piece, and let us say we choose to exchange this, for example, in castle, and in one move white can almost have a winning position with such a powerful piece on f5, and quick continuation with h4, further attacking the black structure on the king side. So this is a pitch which has to be destroyed, but now it opens the f file and gives white some additional opportunities. So castle, again nothing better which can be done. Knight d2, bishop g4, queen e1, bishop h5, and knight f3 again. King g7 was played, And now Carlsen made a very, very amazing move, which found it very instructive. And once you see it, it looks very logical. But finding on your own is quite tricky. So if you see, there's a rook on the f file, there's some pressure on the f file. Carlsen plays this amazing Nh4. It's a crazy move, right? It looks like we're just giving up the piece, but if the pawn captures, bishop captures, and white wins the knight back with a totally winning position. Black's only option was to fall back with bishop g6, knight f5, bishop into f5, rook f5. Now white has a very long-term edge, and black doesn't have any counterplay to show for it. So white has double bishops, the semi-open f file, and the weakness of the king. Well, there is no weakness in the white's position, and white can improve the position slowly, and there's nothing much black can do about it. This is the perfect type of position which a strong player wants. And Carlsen is a master in this type of positions. Knight d7, queen e2, queen e8, rook a2 f1, completing the piling up of the rooks on the f file. f6 was played. And now a very typical Carlsen move, h4, trying to loosen up the black's pawn structure on the king side. Knight e7 was played. Rooks come back. Knight c5, bishop c2, and Ng6. Now, when is instructive next few moves? Now, I was looking at this position on my own, and I was thinking, okay, what about queen g4? But queen g4, suddenly, black has this powerful move, h5, and rook h8. And instead of attacking, white king can suddenly come under attack, because now there is a black rook on the h file, queen can simply come to h8, and then the other rook can also come over. So something to be aware of, because in any position, no matter how good or bad, opponent also has some chances. Okay, so Ng6 was played. Now very instructive, white Carlsen decides to close this part of the game, because he sees he has a total control now on the king side and multiple opportunity to break the position on the other side with, a4, d4, c4. So multiple opportunities to open the game from the other side are available, and therefore white closes the king side. Knight e7 was played, and now d4. White starts expanding knight d7 and bishop b3, improving the position of the bishop. No hurry, everything is under control, and Carlsen continues to improve his position. Rook d8, and now finally a4. Now, though white has a lot of advantage on the king side, there is no clear breakthrough. So in such cases, you always have to play on multiple sides, and with a4, white initiates play on the queen side. Carlsen attacks the a6 b5 structure and planning to open some lines on the queen side for the final phase of the game. f5 was played. This is kind of a lashing out move, something you just want to mix up the game before kind of resigning, kind of very desperate move, because Carlsen was able to continue to improve his position without any risk, and the black has had enough of it, so it just tries to complicate the position, but it doesn't help much. D into e5, knight into e5, and pawn into f5. Now white has won a pawn. King f6, a very interesting move, blocking the pawn. The majesty himself takes that responsibility. Bishop e6, white has won a pawn, and Carlsen cements it. Okay, and he knows that there will be an entry on the queen side. So let us see. Queen c6, pawn was taken. Queen d1, keeping the queen with an eye on some opportunities to attack on the black king. a5, b3, rook b8, and a very instructive rook a2. Now, there's nothing much the rooks are doing on the f file, because the file is closed with the pawn on f5. So anyway, the idea of a4 was to open the queen side, and now we have a target a5. Knight c6, e4, queen c5, bishop f2, and queen c3. This is kind of the fatal mistake. Usually a defender should avoid opening more lines because that usually helps the attacker in bringing more of his pieces to attack. So this is kind of the fatal mistake which loses the game. Rook c2, queen b4, and bishop d5. Now the knight has to move, and the white rook gets an entry on the c7 square. So this is almost the end of the game. White is already a pawn up, and now the major pieces are getting entry. Ne7, rook into c7, rook f2 c8, rook a7. Of course, a very, again, an instructive movement because white doesn't want to exchange his attacking piece. Carlsen keeps his rook, which is on the 7th file, which is the ideal place for the rooks to be. A very instructive movement, again, not exchanging simply for the purpose of exchange. He wants to keep the piece because it is an attacking piece, and attacking piece is much more powerful than a defensive piece of the same value. So rook c3 was played. Bishop c4 with the idea that if black captures it, white has this move bishop d6, d4, and it goes back, capture. Suddenly the control of d6 square is lost and white wins the game with a checkmate very quickly. Okay, so bishop c4, rook b6, bishop d4 was played. Now all the bishops, see the powerful bishops controlling all the squares. Rook into c4, bishop into c4, knight c6, and rook h7. This was the position. Black decided to give up the game, resign, because the h6 pawn is falling. Then white will have great material advantage with an exchange up plus a h5 pawn, which will be going up to queen soon. Again, a very instructive game. It is amazing how Carlsen can make these games look so easy, which is basically a tribute to his mastery of the game and understanding of the game. Okay, so I hope you enjoyed the game and found it interesting. We'll conclude this video. Do let me know in comments if you liked any particular instance of the game and if you could able to improve your understanding of the game looking at this particular game. With that, we'll conclude. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you so much for watching. Do like and subscribe if you like the video so that you can be updated of the upcoming videos. Thank you so much and take care.